Imagine opening your eyes one morning, turning on the television or flipping through the newspaper, and discovering that one of the most influential figures of our time, Pope Francis, has been dead for months, but no one has told you. This is not a fiction. This is not a scenario from a dystopian novel. It is a real possibility that could manifest itself by the end of March 2025. Rumors about his health have been circulating for years, like a thin wind that insinuates itself between the walls of our daily lives. Whispers that speak of a fragile man, of a spiritual leader whose body is failing, while the Vatican remains silent. But what makes this story truly shocking is not just the idea that his death could be hidden. It is the thought of what they might do to keep the secret. Not announce the death, but stage an extraordinary recovery, a fake miracle. Perhaps presenting the world with a double, a substitute, or even a figure constructed with technologies that only 20 years ago we would have considered it pure science fiction. This is not a theory in the air. It is a shadow that extends over our present, a warning to those of us who, between the ages of 55 and 65, have lived long enough to know that power, even that which cloaks itself in sanctity, can conceal uncomfortable truths. I speak to you as if I were sitting next to you with a cup of coffee in my hand, because this story has touched me personally, has pushed me to look beyond appearances and ask myself, what is really happening? It all started about a year ago, in a bar on the outskirts of Rome. I was with a friend, a nurse who works in a private hospital in the capital. As he stirred sugar into his espresso, he looked at me with serious eyes and lowered his voice. You know, the Pope has been to us several times in recent months, but you will never read about it in the papers. Those words struck me like a bolt of lightning. He, who had access to quiet corridors and rooms shielded from prying eyes, described to me a frail man, transported in secret in a wheelchair, surrounded by doctors who moved with the speed and discretion of shadows. He is no longer the same, he added. He seems like an empty shell compared to the Francis we know. From that moment on, I began to pay attention. Pope Francis's increasingly rare public appearances seemed different to me. His voice trembled like a leaf in the wind. His movements were slow, almost unnatural, and his face bore signs of a tiredness that no artificial light could mask. I saw images of his last speeches, hands gripping the lectern, dull eyes, pale skin that looked like melted wax. It was clear that something was wrong, yet the Vatican continued to speak of simple ailments, of a tiredness due to age. 88 years is not a short time, it's true, but we who have lived more than 5 decades know how to distinguish normal fatigue from the shadow of the end. I began to investigate, to gather fragments of truth from conversations with people close to inside sources, from articles hidden between the lines, from silences that spoke louder than words. What I discovered paints a disturbing picture. Pope Francis is said to be suffering from serious heart problems, that his heart is beating weaker and weaker, like a clock that is about to stop. His immune system is said to be compromised, making every cold a mortal threat. Some doctors, speaking in hushed tones and away from microphones, have described an irreversible condition. Excruciating pain in his hips and knees that make every step a torture, difficulty breathing that forces him to stop after a few sentences. Yet the Vatican insists that everything is under control, that Francis is fine, that he is just tired. But images speak a different language. Who among us has not assisted a parent or a friend in the last days? We know those signs, the shaking of the hands, the shortness of breath, the gaze that is lost in the void. It is a fragility that cannot be hidden, not even under the white robes of a pope. And so I ask myself, why this silence? Why, if his health is so precarious, is there no open discussion of his condition? The answer could be simple and terrible at the same time. The world is not ready. The Catholic Church, with its influence over billions of faithful, cannot afford a sudden void. The death of a pope is not only a spiritual mourning, it is an earthquake that shakes political, economic, social balances. Inside the walls of the Vatican, it is said that there is a fierce fight. On one side, those who want to announce the truth, prepare the faithful, follow tradition. On the other, those who prefer to maintain control, even at the cost of an illusion. Some whisper that Francis is already dead, that his body has been hidden in a secret crypt while a successor is chosen. Others go further. The plan is not only to hide the death, but to rewrite reality. Imagine the scene. It is March 2025, and the Vatican announces that Pope Francis, against all medical predictions, has recovered. A man who looks like him appears on the balcony of St. Peter's, his voice firmer, his step more confident. A miracle, they will say. But we who have lived long enough to see the world change will ask ourselves, is it really him, or is it a hoax? It wouldn't be the first time that power has resorted to substitutes. During the Cold War, there was talk of doubles used to protect leaders from attacks. Today, technology offers even more disturbing tools. Deep fakes, videos manipulated with artificial intelligence, can make someone say words they never said. Cloning, once a fantasy, is now a topic discussed in scientific laboratories. And what if the Vatican, with its immense resources and its control over internal media, decided to use these means? I'm not saying it's certain, but I invite you to think. If they can show us a living pope when perhaps he isn't, what else can they hide? We, who have seen the advent of the internet and the digital revolution, know how easy it is to alter reality. A video, a voice, a face, everything can be falsified. But we also have the wisdom not to be fooled. This is not just a matter of faith. It is a lesson in our vulnerability in the face of power. There is another aspect that torments me. Faith, for many of us, is a beacon in the storm. And yet this story seems to call it into question. If the Vatican, guardian of divine truth, resorts to earthly lies, what is left of our trust? I spoke with an old priest, a man who has dedicated 60 years to the church. When I asked him what he thought, he sighed. The church is made up of men, and men sin, but faith is greater than they are. Those words made me think. Perhaps the real lesson is to distinguish between the institution and the message. Faith lives in our hearts, not in stone walls. In times of uncertainty, prayer is a refuge. Here's a plea I wrote with all this in mind. Lord, you who see everything, guide our steps in this time of shadows. Enlighten those who lead your church so that the truth may shine brighter than silence. Give us, your children, the courage to seek it. Protect us from deception and lead us to your light. Amen. If these words touch you, if you too want clarity, write Amen in the comments below. It is a sign that we are united in seeking answers. This story has pushed me to doubt, to search, to not settle for official versions. We live in an era in which the truth can be buried, but also in which we have the tools to find it. I invite you not to stop here. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, activate the bell. There you will find updates and reflections. We cannot change the power games, but we can choose to be vigilant. It is said that in March 2025, the Vatican will make a decisive announcement. Will it be the death of Francis or an artificially resurrected pope? Whatever the answer, it is up to us to seek it. We have lived long enough to know that silence can be complicit. Be brave, be curious. The truth is out there, and it is up to us to reach it.